With the Fed finally cutting rates and taking the brake off the economy, and with global liquidity starting to rise, does this now mean that the bull market is back? Well, that is the topic of this video. Also, with inflation falling and the money printer being warmed back up, we now just need a Trump victory to send prices to the moon. And so, as always in this video, we'll be covering the latest price action as things have been getting tasty. Then we'll look at seasonality and why we may not be out of the woods just yet. Then we'll look at where we are in this 4-year market cycle, and then finish with the biggest developments from all around the world in just the past couple of weeks. Okay, so first up, we had the big milestone this week, the Fed doing a double cut, knocking 0.5% off rates. And so does this mean that the bull market is back? So exciting times back in the crypto market. And we are going to start jumping into the classic Bitcoin chart, and we're looking at it on the monthly. So the monthly gives a really good picture of what is going on. We have the previous cycle top here, which was major resistance, which was only briefly broken before we've been in this terrible trading range for the past 6 months. Now, the main point just to cover here is that this month, August, still marked the local bottom. So as far as major support, this is still the line to watch, which is Bitcoin just under 50,000. And so far in this month, although we did bleed all the way down to about 52, this line has still held. We've now had this lovely jump and it's brought us back into this trading range above 60,000, currently sitting at about 63,000. So the big question is this line going to hold? Because as the months go by, it's looking more and more likely that this will have been the local bottom. As we'll soon see when it comes to seasonality, when we get into October, November, December, then it looks like things will be picking back up. So the last 2 months, you can see crazy volatility that's been going on. We've had this terrible 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, soon to be 7-month fading down. But it's also quite likely the bottom was hit last month and the bull market may well be back, but we just need to watch out for one thing. And the one thing has to do with seasonality and the month of September. So now we're looking at Bitcoin again, this time breaking it down to monthly performance. And 2 weeks ago, we discussed that September typically is a bad month for the crypto market. And in fact, 2 weeks ago, we were hitting these figures, -4, -4, being the average and the median. Well, since then, we've had a bounce. Redtember has now become green, and it makes me think about how to interpret this data, as even though in the month, this can go to -10, if it's in the same month, you can still finish the month in green, and then it kind of skews what actually happened in this month, as it only registers where it actually finishes. So we just need to bear that in mind. If we look at this chart a year from now, we would think that this month was great, even though we all know at one point it was down fairly significantly. So I just say, until we get out of September, I'd say we're not out of the woods just yet. And then the second point, you've got to be feeling bullish when you take a look at the averages of what happened to Bitcoin in October, November, December. They tend to be massive months. And then obviously this year, once every 4 years, we have the US election. And I don't think Donald Trump could be any more more pro-crypto than he is. So obviously, if Donald Trump gets in November, then we may even smash through this average of 47%. So for me, it's really hard not to be bullish on the crypto market coming October, November, December. Then when we flip to Ethereum, which may give us a better understanding for Ethereum and the altcoin market, we see a similar picture. The last time we looked at this, beginning of September, it was down negative about 10%, which is what the averages show. However, because of the Fed rate cut, we've had this jump up, and now all of a sudden September is green. So when it comes to seasonality, we just need to bear that point in mind. It can be a little bit misleading. And then interestingly, when it comes to October, November, December, they don't tend to be as good when compared against Bitcoin. Other comparisons we could do is the last halving year, which was 2020. So if we follow suit in 2020 for the last halving year, then October, November, December would be great months, going all the way into January, February, March, and April. So if this follows the last halving year, then from next month, after this red September, there is 7 green months in a row and an absolute boom coming to the altcoins. So that is incredibly bullish. However, it was actually 2019 if you compare it to where we were with monetary policy and what the Fed was doing with rates. And if this one repeats, then October will be pretty flat, so I'm sure extremely volatile. And then November, December would actually be negative months. So it's a possibility. We have to stay open to this scenario. This is if a recession hits. It can be another pandemic, another war. So something would have to go majorly wrong, I think, to disrupt this momentum. So hopefully we follow the last halving year into the post-halving year, and we will see a good October, November, December, January, February, March, and April. You know what? I think it's about time. Jumping into the 4-year cycle, and where are we? So for any beginners, this is just a great chart I like to refer to. It's like a bull market tracker. We have the first cycle when Bitcoin was about $1, going absolutely bananas, going to about a 300x from its start. The second cycle doing about 120x from its cycle bottom. The last big double bull market that we went through, which finished with a 20x, and this is where we're at right now, after this big 6-month correction. So, knocking out the first cycle as this $1 Bitcoin cycle, I think is not very useful. Where are we at right now? So last we talked is that we do at some point need to come below the last 2 cycles, as it's very likely we'll continue to get diminishing returns. And we're very close to breaking through into this clear open space, very similar to like a plane taking off. It's just heading up the runway, ready for takeoff into the clearing, and then we get this nice clear path taking us, I'm predicting, probably to a 10x, at absolute best a 15x from the cycle bottom. And for those curious, this is a Bitcoin price of about 150,000 to about 200,000. That is what I think is on the cards for next year as a cycle top. Now, what I'm looking at here is this insane run in the last cycle, which was after COVID. The Fed talk about liquidity. The Fed printed money like it's never printed money before. Liquidity was blasted in at unprecedented levels, and this is why it absolutely blew past the cycle before that. So this is a big warning sign. Whenever the latest cycle goes ahead of the previous cycles, it should be a warning sign. But it's so bloody difficult to pull the trigger. Ideally, this is the warning sign, so you get out and then you buy back in when it comes back under the cycles. But it's so difficult to do. We had the warning sign here as it blew past the last cycle, and congratulations to anybody who is selling here. But as greed kicks in and we're checking our portfolios and we're making more money than ever, it's so difficult to sell. But then what happens? It has to come back into fair value below the previous cycles. So I, for one, don't think that it's going to be able to keep pace with this green line. I think this was a once in a lifetime run. I think we're probably going to be coming under here, and then it's game on, and we should be getting a lot of green months to come. And what did I say about Donald Trump? Could not be any more crypto. He's just launched with his sons his World Liberty Financial. This is a crypto platform that's going to be doing DeFi, so things like borrowing and lending. And yes, they are also going to be launching their own token. So it'll be very interesting to see what the Donald Trump token does, but we all need to keep our fingers crossed for a Trump victory in November. When it comes to Micro Sailor, he is just paving the way and showing exactly what we need to do. Just keep dollar cost averaging into the market. And if we look at the Sailor tracker, we can see this is a great example of how you can play the crypto market. In booms, you just keep accumulating. In crashes, you just keep accumulating. In booms, accumulate. As it crashes, accumulate, and dollar cost average all the way. And what happens, even if you buy at the absolute top, he's still up about 60% on his investment. And his portfolio currently sits at about $15 billion. So I think we can all learn the lesson here. Be more like Michael Saylor. We had the news that Grayscale is to launch a XRP trust. So this is great news for XRP, and historically this has been a bit of a stepping stone to having its own ETF. So this was good news for XRP. DBS, which is one of the biggest banks in Singapore to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars, they are getting into Bitcoin and Ethereum options and also structured notes, initially for institutions. So big adoption coming from the banks in Singapore. Now, this was very, very interesting from the UK. A new bill was introduced in Parliament to clarify crypto's legal status. The property bill has been introduced to Parliament, and this means for the first time in British history, digital holdings like crypto, NFTs, and carbon credits can be considered as property by law. So where in the US, Gary Gensler is pushing for crypto to be a security, in other places or with Bitcoin, it can be something like a commodity. But in the UK, they are putting crypto as property, like you would your own house. And then literally a week later, there was a UK court ruling that Tether is deemed property for the first time in English law. So crypto becoming personal property. So this is very, very interesting. And then finally, in Indonesia, a Binance subsidiary, has got regulatory license to operate. And Indonesia, surprisingly, has a very big population. It's not that far off the United States. There's a lot of people in Indonesia. So as you can see, plenty of developments from all around the world setting up the next monster rally in crypto. With the new rate cut cycle beginning and global liquidity picking up, does this mean that the bull market is officially back? Well, for me, as we are still in September, I would say that we're not out of the woods just yet. Seasonality does show that October, November, December do tend to be good months. However, with the election in November, a Trump victory would certainly almost guarantee a crypto boom. We are now almost breaking through to a clear path in the 4-year cycle, and I still predict that Bitcoin next year probably does a 10 to 15x from the cycle bottom, giving a price prediction for next year of around 150,000 to 200,000 as the cycle top. The developments keep coming in from all around the world thick and fast, so clearly a lot to be bullish on right now. And finally, I think the only way that this crypto train gets derailed is some kind of other pandemic or war or big recession scare or other black swan event. So there you are, guys. Hope you enjoyed. As most of you will know, I have positioned myself for a big optimistic outlook, so my fate is sealed. However, remember, do your own research, and if you've got any questions, just remember to get rid of 100% of the comment spam and trading bots that plague YouTube comments. We are trying out the new SuperThanks Commenting system. So to get your question or comment read and replied to, or just to say thanks, then use SuperThanks below. And for now, just to say, if you did enjoy anything in the video, then drop a like, and a big thank you to everyone who does, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.